It's 4 o'clock on a Monday. Nope, it's Tuesday. Sorry. And that was a real mistake. It's 4 o'clock on Tuesday. Welcome back to Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woo, baby. And there's that audience. I think the audience was asleep today. And thank you, fake band. Thank you, fake audience. Let's go look at the real audience. Okay. You guys can hear me, I hope, because I did change a setting over the weekend. Yep, you can hear me. Hey, Marcus, how are you? I have no plan for today's show whatsoever. I got a call about an hour ago from a staff member, and then I got a call from Wells Fargo Bank on all that PP, whatever, I don't even know what they call it, loan stuff. So I just got off the phone like 11 minutes ago and went, oh crap, I was going to work up some notes for what to do on today's show. Let me look at my paperwork. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. Hello, Martin Gravel, Wind Chimes, Bob Gunnerfelt, Rick Cabot, Podmore, Darren Fletcher, Alex Dillon, Martin Gravel. Did I say that already? Christopher Jones, Andre Stepanian, let's see, Mark Stone and the Dirty Country Band, Edmund Red, Patrick Adams, Darren Moss, John Pearson, Songs from a Headband, Peter Rahill, Robert Martin. Hello, everybody. Yep, no prep. That's what my wife just said. I just kicked her out of the kitchen. She and I were working about, I don't know, maybe 10 feet apart from each other. And she said, so I've got to go. And I said, yes, you do. And you can't come back down unless you want to say hello to the boys. Well, I guess boys and girls. I shouldn't be a sexist about that. Hello, Anthony Zebro, Lou Lewis, Patrick Adams, Jim Stamper. Anyway, I said, oh, crap. I literally didn't even think about today's show. I thought about some stuff over the weekend, didn't write it down, figured I'd take care of it between like 1:30 and 3 o'clock today, which is usually my window of opportunity, and I didn't do it. So, to show you how disorganized I am, I don't even know if we've got Bria in the producer's hot seat today or Ariana. So whoever is my producer, let me know. Calling a screener is a good idea. That's not a bad idea. Michael, have I heard of a new DAW called Luna? It's from US Audio. Yeah, actually, I featured it in our newsletter. See, now I know you don't read the newsletter, so you're in deep doo-doo. Yeah, I did have it in the newsletter a while ago. And whoever my producer is today must be working on something else because they're not even answering me. Let's see if they answered on my phone. Nope. So basically, I'm flying solo today. I have no producer, apparently. Yeah, I am familiar a little bit with Luna. I'm here, but who is I'm? I don't know if it's Bria or if it's Ariana. Somebody tell me something. Okay. So it's Ariana. Okay. Hi. I don't know much about Luna other than it's free. And I read a bit about it and watched a video demo of it. It's from Universal Audio, so it certainly can't be bad. They make great stuff, software-wise as well as hardware. But people have said to me, it's not technically a workstation. It's not technically a competitor for Logic or for any of the other ones that are out there. So I don't really understand that how is that not... I mean, it's like a digital tape machine and a mixer. To me, that's kind of competition. Anyway, I would love to hear from you guys. If anybody would like to try it and write up a review, I might put that in the Taxi newsletter. So did everybody have a good holiday weekend, by the way? I get very touched. I really do. Memorial Day just has always really deeply touched me emotionally, as does Veterans Day. And normally we go, as I mentioned the other day, normally we go to a cemetery. It's very close to our house. As a matter of fact, it's in our backyard. But it's like a mile from where we live, maybe not even. And they do a beautiful thing every year for Memorial Day and for Veterans Day. And this year they didn't have it, but we did get some flyovers from some World War II warbirds, P-47s, P-51s, flying in formation and leaving smoke trails. So that was cool. Peter Rahill says he's been binge watching Leland Sklar's new YouTube channel. Just wow. Yeah, that dude has played on so many records. Speaking, John Pearson brings up the Gopher Cemetery in the backyard. There is that. And there actually was one more Gopher relocation yesterday. There was one that was giving me a very hard time. Anytime I would put the device in the ground and pull it out, there'd be nothing but dirt jammed in it. And then I would leave the hole open for a day. And of course, sometimes an hour later, the Gopher would push dirt back in the hole. They do that to block out the sunlight. So I knew that there was an active Gopher down there, but it just wasn't making that many mounds or causing that much damage. But I still wanted to relocate him. So I figured out a strategy. I opened up, there were 3 holes that were all within about 3 or 4 feet of each other. So I opened them all up to sunlight and then put a Gopher hawk trap in between the holes that were giving the light, knowing that the Gopher would have to travel over to those holes to shove dirt up there and get the light out. Sure enough, got the little sucker. Perseverance does pay off. That little guy's been relocated. Yes, he has. Wow, Andre Spanian says they recommend an iCore 7 and a 16 gig and up for Luna. That's beefy. I've got, do I have an i7? Let me see. I've got like a 5 or 6 year old laptop, but it was pretty beefy when I bought it. Yeah, I've actually got a 2.5 gigahertz Intel Core i7, 16 gigs, and a half terabyte of solid state hard drive. So I'm good. Jim Stamper says, go for it. Peter Rahill, Warbird fan. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Neve Summing is, Mark Gravel says, what he retained from the demo that he saw. Neve Summing without Transformers? I raise an eyebrow, but I'll keep an open mind. Gotta love Transformers. Did you guys know that Shirelli actually manufactured for a very short amount of time, had a preamp, it was like $280 or something, $250, that was basically a clone of some of the Neve 1073, and it had super big, beefy transformers in it that sounded, really good. And so the other day, a week ago Saturday, Rob and I and an old friend of ours, 3 of us did a 3-way Zoom for a couple hours. We were just talking mostly about studio stuff. And I said to Rob, why did you never give me one of those, number one? Because he used to pretty much give me anything that I wanted from the Gauge stuff. And that's something that I really would have liked to have. And why did you quit making them? And he said, because the shipping, getting them here from China with those transformers, just totally cut into their profit margin. Like there wasn't a profit margin because all the money went to shipping those heavy boxes. They weren't that big. They were like this big, but they were heavy because of the transformers. You have to pay for Neve Summing at $2.99. On Shootouts, it sounds amazing. Yeah, well, so maybe they've actually got transformers in there. Logic is free too for another couple of months? Like a full boat version of Logic? Seriously? It's not like a demo version? Ooh, John Pearson's got a new desktop coming. Wow, Andre, yeah, we want a link for free logic. All right. So, did you guys all have a great holiday weekend? I'm curious, did any of you go out? Like, Deb and I went to a barbecue on Sunday night with just another husband and wife that we know, and they had a father in law relative. So there were five of us, and we weren't all like hugging or kissing or shaking hands. We were probably 5 or 6 feet apart from each other at the table. Um, did you guys do anything like that? Have you ventured out into the real world yet? Yeah, now I've got you guys. Oh wow, Element, you guys, you're in the Bahamas, right? You guys still locked down on the weekend? Ed Smarone says he's still afraid of other humans. I know, me too. But are you afraid of the virus or just other people? Wow. Yeah, I mean, believe me, California, LA County in particular, still technically, we can't find out. I cannot find out from anybody if we're allowed to go back to our office. Yet when I go to the office complex we're in, now it's like 70% of the offices have cars there. And we're not in LA City, we're in LA County. So Mayor Garcetti's rules don't apply to us, yet the state of California's rules do. So I have tried so hard to find out. I don't want to break any laws, but if everybody else is going back to our office, and we actually have quite a bit of space, so for us to be distant from each other, not that hard. Um, Socially distant but together. Jim Stamper's sometimes he visit in very small groups, outdoors only. Yeah, we were outdoors as well. Um, Element produced from Friday night to Monday morning. That's a good way to spend the weekend. Uh, Still locked down in Australia. When my wife came back from Israel a week ago yesterday, she was shocked by the fact that the state of California is being so stringent about keeping us locked down when the numbers are actually starting to turn and look pretty good. I mean, they're going to keep coming up with more and more infections identified because there's more and more testing. It's the death rate that matters, I would think. Um, and my wife was shocked that when she got, they had pretty tight security in Tel Aviv. Um, she flew back on United. And then when she got to Newark, just walked off the plane, went through customs and everything. Yes, Zuma Dog, Mayor Garcetti, could not agree more. Uh, she said there was nobody like checking temperatures, anything. All United required that you wear a mask. They cleaned the plane. They probably misted it. I think they're now bringing on ultraviolet UVC lights and misting the planes, so they say. Of course, my wife had wipies with her and wiped down every surface. And I said, even the seatbelt buckle, honey. And somebody gave her one of those PPE masks, the clear plastic shields, right before she got on the plane. A family friend gave that to her. So she actually wore that from Newark to LAX. And when I met her at baggage, that's what she was wearing. So definitely didn't get to give my wife a welcome home kiss. Um, Ed wants to know, speaking of viruses, where do we upload? There's our virus song submissions. Mine is finished. Um, Email it to taxitv@taxi.com. Let's talk about that. So Jason Bloom is, in fact, back on the show this Thursday to listen to your melodic stuff, your homework assignment from Jason. And originally I was going to give a book away, and he said, hey, why don't you give whoever's got the best thing, give them a free course, one of his courses. So he's going to send us links, and we will do either YouTube, or not YouTube, Twitter or Facebook, and let you guys know what the possibilities of the 3 or 4 different courses that you can win as a prize if you win his thing. Peter Rahill says, hasn't it been documented that hospitals are getting paid dollars to report deaths as COVID, even though a patient died from something else? I heard that about 5 or 6 days ago. A friend of mine who is married to an ER doc, I heard it from, and then I heard from somebody else who is a nurse at a hospital in a different city, that they actually get paid, the hospital gets $3,000 per COVID-related reported death. So if somebody dies of pneumonia, but they're not absolutely certain that it was COVID-related, and they just put COVID on the thing, the hospital gets $3,000 for that. And if they put somebody on a ventilator, the hospital gets $18,000 for that. So normally I go, okay, is that really true? Zuma says, don't talk about COVID. Get back to music. We will. So I don't know. You never know. There's just so much stuff flying around out there. But the fact that I heard it from 2 people in the profession in different cities, there may be some truth to that one. Yes, more Jason Blum, Darren, and you started that ball rolling, dude. All right, so take a sip of Rockstar. Muy refresco. Oops, I think I just drooled on myself. I was looking through Steve Barden's book over the weekend. This one. I don't make a penny. When you guys buy this book, I do not make a penny. Just saying. And you know, I would never recommend anything that I hadn't really truly checked out and think is awesome. You know, if all you did was talk about the appendices in this book, like that, how I pluralized appendix. Yeah, nobody says appendixes, right? You say appendices. What about when you get that bodily organ removed? They remove my appendix. Do we only have one? I think we do. Anyway, the appendices, like library music composer agreement. He's got an example of a non-exclusive agreement in here. Let's see what other stuff he's got in here. Man, this non-exclusive thing is long. In Appendix H, he's got recommended reading. He's got creative stuff. Wow, he's got a book, a memoir of the craft, on writing, a memoir of the craft by Stephen King is one of his recommended readings. Excuse me, he's got motivation stuff. Excuse me, Rockstar burp. Purple Cow. Have any of you ever read Purple Cow by Seth Godin, who is kind of a very popular author and marketing whiz kid? I've read virtually every one of his books. They're great. I mean, I think I've read like 12 or 15 books by Seth Godin. Yes, Purple Cow, says Darren Moss. I haven't read the new one yet. This is marketing. I'm going to have to make a note and buy that as soon as today's show is over. New Seth. Okay, thank you for that. Let's see, what other good stuff does he have in the back of this book? It's really quite impressive. He's got an exclusive library agreement. And I mean, if all you did was buy this book and just read those 2 sample contracts, it'd be well worth the money. Appendix D is a collaborator's agreement for a single music work. You know, everybody needs this stuff. Appendix B is filled with moods and feelings. This is marketing is by Seth Godin, Godin. Is any Jan Weilage wants to know, is anyone writing pandemic songs or music pieces? I'm guessing you're asking that of your fellow folks in the chat room, because certainly we've had a lot of listings for it. Hey Pierre, how's Hong Kong now, dude? I caught a little bit of that on the news yesterday. My gosh. Oh, that's right, Darren Moss. I forgot you are in advertising. You and I need to hang out. I love marketing books too. I have read 800 plus marketing books since I started the company in 1992. I never read novels. If a book is not a marketing book, I have no interest. But and 90% of what's in the books is largely the same, but it's that 10% that's different every time that makes it worth the price. Hong Kong is great. Man, they made it look like, of course, that was the news that I was watching. They made it look like you guys had massive riots going on and that the Communist Party from China was invading and just like shooting you guys in the street. So that's not true. CNN not telling me the truth again. I was talking about the COVID listing compilations, Taxi had listings for. I just got an update. That was one of the phone calls I had. I know that we ran 3 of those listings. One of them is completely screened and going through quality control right now. The second one, and we've got great screeners on those things. I mean, like people that are really, really, really well suited for those. The second batch is half done, and the third batch will be done, and they told me that they will have everything in my hands by Tuesday or Wednesday of next week at the latest, and then from those batches we will put together our disco playlist and send to the ad agencies. Pierre says, well, just a handful of protesters, only 100 arrests. Rick White says CNN never tells the truth to me or anybody else. Still working on a song with Nathan Nasby for an artist pitch. Tell Nathan I send my best. Element Studios, you're not a Taxi member yet? Hello, what are you waiting for? All right, let me see what else he's got. So Appendix B is moods and feelings. It's alphabetized. I think about this. I'm just going to read it. It's got 3 columns per page. All right, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Animated, beautiful, bold, blissful, brassy, bright, brilliant, bubbly, carefree, careful, caring, cartoony, cautious, celebratory, celestial, cheerful, classy, comical, confident, cool, curious, cute, delicate, delighted. That was just the first column on the first page. So you get the idea. What we should do would be like a challenge where we pick a mood and have you guys write to a mood. Well, I guess you're doing that in the listings anyway. But man, oh man, this is a pretty comprehensive list. Here, let's move over to... oh, I see what he did. He's clearly... Oh, that was the happy positive list. And then he goes into sad, bad, negative and starts over with the letter A again. Abrasive, aggressive, angry, anguished, anxious, apprehensive, awkward, bad, bitter, black, blue, bluesy, brooding. That's me. Brooding. I can't do brooding. Chaotic, cold, confused, creepy, dangerous, dark, defeated, depressed, dirty, disenchanted, disillusioned, distorted, distressed, disturbing, doubtful. D's got a lot of good ones. Down, droning, eerie, evil, forceful, foreboding. Speaking of foreboding, all right, I'll call some taxi screeners. Screener has been on Taxi TV yet? I don't know. Might scare the crap out of him. Uh, any of you guys watching Homeland? Have you been watching that series? It just ended, sadly. I don't understand why they took it off the air. Somebody must have asked for too much money. Um, Man, oh man. Deb and I, over the weekend, binged the last season of Homeland. I waited for her to get back from the trip before I would start. It's one of my all time favorite shows. And just incredible. I gotta say, it's one of the best series finales that I've ever seen. I thought it was amazing. Martin Gravel, what book? Martin, are you paying attention in class today? Am I going to have to take you to the principal's office? This book. That book right there. Martin, let me know that you saw the cover. Uh, okay. Let me see. I don't know. I don't think I have many screeners in my phone, honestly. Excuse me. Damn. I just got done answering an email with one of our screeners. I was on the phone with a library owner earlier today. Man, I had a busy 2 hours leading up to the show. It's so funny. I spoke to a library owner before the holiday weekend, and that library owner was telling me, and this is somebody who's highly experienced, has been doing this for a couple of decades easily, that the networks have gotten so bad about paying the sync fees that he can wait for 6 months, 9 months, sometimes even a year before the network will process the payment. And then I was on the phone with another library owner a couple hours ago, and that library owner told me, no problem, I get paid. As a matter of fact, one of the networks reached out and said, would you like us to direct deposit, because it's a little clunky for us to write a check now with everybody being in lockdown. Crazy. Darren Fletcher says, boats are for boating. No, you're wrong, Darren. You are so wrong. Boats are for fishing. If you can't fish from it, don't own it. Just saying. Can Robin come back after Jason? Yes. I was just thinking about Robin last night as I had gotten an earlier email from Jason. I thought, I hope Robin doesn't think I'm ignoring her. I would love to have her back. So, any topics? Remember, the Quarantini happy hour is supposed to be you guys throwing topics out there for me. I wasn't supposed to do any work before the shows, which is not really transpired. John Pearson says he's waiting 2 months and waiting for Netflix to pay. No boating for the governor. Which state is that? Minnesota? Yeah, did I hear correctly that Minnesota, they allow you to go boating, but only one person per boat? Really? Jan Weilich says, so many interesting listings, so little time. Yeah, we've got one coming out tomorrow that you guys are going to like. I just saw a couple hours ago. It seems like everything in my life happened just a couple hours ago. But we've got a listing in the batch of 3 coming out tomorrow that is for up to $12,000. And I can't remember the genre. I really can't. But it was 5. I thought 12,000 seemed a little beefy. But just so you know, anytime we see a brief where it says, $50,000 for this, we will reach out and find out. And oftentimes the clarification is, did you guys know that the same briefs that you might get from a library, those very same briefs with different dollar amounts go to indie labels and major labels, and they have higher dollar amounts because they know it's going to cost them more to get the music. So it's not unusual that libraries, and I guess by association, you guys are competing with acts that are on major labels. But the good news is usually they won't pay the major label or even like a large indie label price. Oh, it's Michigan, not Minnesota. That's right. Probably not an instrumental for 12. I kind of think that it was an instrumental. I kind of think. I could be wrong. Michael, what's your best saltwater fishing story? Oh, man. Do I have to go get pictures? All right. My best saltwater fishing story. All right. I lived first in Miami and then in Pompano Beach, which is like the north side of Fort Lauderdale. For the last 3 years, I lived in Florida, and I was working at Triad Studios in Fort Lauderdale. And we lived in a 2 or 3 bedroom, like, townhousey condo kind of thing. And on the property was where a freshwater spillway canal washed over like a little dam into a saltwater thing that if you got in the saltwater and went far enough, it would take you out to the intercoastal and ultimately out to the ocean. So there's a fish in there that I kept seeing every day. I would go hang out and try and catch like little snappers, whatever I could catch. I would get up on this little spillway thing. There was like a little catwalk above it. And I would sit there and I would cast lures in the water or drop, like a pilchard on a hook in there or something. And I caught dinner there quite often, actually. But then one day I saw a fish that was about the size of my leg in this water. And it was only like 3 or 4 feet below me. And the fish was in about, I don't know, maybe 3 feet of water at the most. And oh man. I just had this tiny little bass rod, and I jumped in my car and I drove over to the tackle shop. And there was a guy that worked in the tackle shop that, let's just say he ate well. He was not skinny. And he was very kind of phlegmatic and slow and had a southern drawl. And I went running in the door. I said, I need a big rod, like something really hefty. I just saw a shark in my canal. And he said, how big was it? And I said, it was the size of my leg. I got to buy something right now and go back and get him while he's still there. And he goes, son, you didn't see no shark in that water. What you saw was a snook. And I went, what's a snook? And he goes, a snook is the finest eating fish on a fin. And I'm like, tell me more. He goes, it's silver. It's got a black line going down the side. It looks like a big largemouth bass, but it's silver, and it's got a black line that looks like somebody drew it on there with a magic marker. And son, that's the finest eating fish on a fin. I went, okay, well, I got to catch me that snook, which is really snook. And so I bought a rod, and I went back there. For the next year, I tried to catch this snook. Anybody who's ever fished for snook knows that they're extremely smart. They call him wily Mr. Snook. I became obsessed. Like with the Gophers, that's how I became with snook. I would get home from the studio at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I must have had too much coffee because oftentimes I couldn't sleep when I got home, if you can imagine that. Snooks are tough to catch, great on the fly, yet have to catch one. Well, I've now caught dozens of snook, Andre, so I will teach you how. Anyway, so it was Thanksgiving about 11 o'clock in the morning, and my then wife, my first wife, my ex-wife, said to me, oh, we need some not Chef Boyardee, whatever, Swanson's turkey gravy in a can. She wasn't that great of a cook. So can you go to the grocery store and get me some? And I said, sure. So I jump in my little yellow Triumph Spitfire ragtop car, and as I was driving by the canal, I thought, I gotta look. And I look in the canal, and I see the snook. Wily Mr. Snook is right below the spillway. So I said, forget the turkey gravy. I'm going to catch that fish. So I open up the trunk car, put the rod together, and had a tackle box, had a gaff, had my fillet knife, had no bait, and had no snook. I mean, no lures. I had those in a separate, like, Tupperware thingy, you know? One of those segmented little Tupperware things. Snow, I'm reading Snooky on the Hooky, Snook on the Hook, yeah, whatever. Anyway, so what I did have was a treble hook, you know, those little three-way hooks, and I had one that was about an inch big. So I thought, what the hell? This isn't very sportsmanlike of me, but I am determined to catch that fish. So I lowered the treble hook in the water directly below me, and I sat there patiently waiting. And cell phones didn't exist, so I'm sure that my then wife was going crazy, going, where the hell is he? I sent him out to get a can of gravy an hour ago. Well, I'm sitting there waiting for this fish to swim over the hook. And sure enough, finally he swam, you know, right over the hook, and I jerked the rod tip up, and I grabbed him right in the gill with the treble hook. And that snook looked up at me. The dude was like 3.5 feet long. And he looked up at me and just like, not today, sucker. And he started swimming out, you know, towards the intercoastal in the saltwater. And the line is just spinning off the reel. There was an I-beam, a rusted out I-beam sticking out of this water, which is like 3 feet deep. And the snook did what snooks will do. Is it snooks? Is that plural? Snookums? Anyway, he did a U-turn around the I-beam, and the line, I could literally see the monofilament line was shredding going around this rusty I-beam, and I thought, there's no way. This is the fish of my life. I've been after this thing. It was like the old man in the sea, been after it for a year. So I jumped off, shoes and everything, left my wallet on the thing, took my watch off, and just jumped in. And now I'm waist high in the water, and I'm trying to walk up to the I-beam to walk around it to undo the line going around it. Yes, Taxi TV meets Deadliest Catch. And I get the thing untangled from the I-beam, and this snook is pulling on this rod, and I was afraid to put too much pressure on the line because he had already got a lot of abrasion on the line, and it was actually splitting in one place. So I figured, what the hell? I'm just following this fish for a while. So I'm walking, and then I've got the rod over my head, and now the water's up to my chest. Well, at some point, I couldn't touch bottom anymore. So I put the rod in my mouth, and I'm dog paddling behind the fish. And I forgot the most important thing. You know what a gig is? The 3-prong thing that goes on the end of a broomstick. People use them to get frogs in the Everglades. Some people fish with them. So anyway, this snook, somebody had gigged it at some point, and the broomstick apparently pulled out. But the little thing that was, you know, like 3 inches high was still stuck in his back by his dorsal fin. So when the fish swam in the water, he left a wake, and it looked like a periscope. So it literally looked like a submarine heading out to sea. So I'm dog paddling, holding the rod in my teeth. And I'm trying so hard to catch this snook. And now all of a sudden, like, cabin cruisers are going by me. And pretty soon, like 40 and 50-foot fishing vessels are going by me. And people are pointing at me and laughing. Who is this idiot literally dog paddling with a rod in his mouth? All right. So now I've got to go see. If I can find the picture in 30 seconds, I will show it to you. If not, then just entertain yourselves. Okay, let's see what we've got here. There's a barracuda. That was on a deep sea boat. I don't really like deep sea. Check this out. With a little 110 Instamatic, I got this shot. Whoops. Of a sailfish jumping. I caught him mid-jump off the back of like a 52-foot deep sea boat. There's the last fish I caught in Florida the day before I moved to New York. Mahi mahi. Andre is loving this, I'm sure. Okay, Andre, identify this fish if you can. Yeah, Andre's going to get invited up to my suite at the road rally, and we're just going to hang out and talk about fishing. Music? What's that? Nope. That is a wahoo. Oh, he got it. Yep, wahoo. Fun. There's a little baby snook. See that? Look at that black line down its side. Look at that kid. I was like 23, 24 years old in that shot, I think. That was a youngin'. Studio shots. You've seen all these. Come on, where's that snook? Damn. I know it's in here somewhere. Could you imagine anybody who's not part of the regular crew tunes into the show, goes, what the hell? I thought this was supposed to be about music. Oh, man. Okay, we're getting close. Here I am holding up my first daughter and a snook, trying to decide which one I was going to keep. All right, here we go. There it is. There is the famous snook from that story. So everybody in the condo complex knew that I was this crazy guy who was obsessed with catching snook. And when I got this fish, I literally walked around the condo complex holding the fish up. I don't know why I'm holding. I don't think I actually caught it on that rod. But that's the size rod, Andre, just so you know, that's the size rod that I now fish for tarpon on. I'm not kidding. Like a 6.5 foot light tackle rod with 10-foot test and a 20 to 40 pound mono leader on it. And that's what I go after tarpon that range from 5 pounds up to 100 pounds. I actually caught 100-pound tarpon on 10-pound line that took about a week to bring in. Anyway, so that's enough fishing today, because I'm sure that you guys are going, that is not why I'm here. Here, for anybody that didn't see this last time. That's right, it's all your fault, Pearson. Okay, there's the original taxi screening crew at our first screener dinner. It was a double exposure, but look in the back, the guy with the glasses, that's Skunk Baxter. One of your original taxi screeners. There you go. Okay, so now Andre just came back from fishing cutthroat off the beach. Oh, you're killing me. Have I eaten freshly caught sashimi? Many, many times. Yes. Nancy Colell wants to know, sorry to repeat, UK songwriting contest. Any thoughts? They probably experience the same questions Taxi does about validity. No, I'm not questioning Taxi. Thanks, Nancy. Honestly, for the longest time, I was not a fan of song contests. I've got to be honest about this. They just weren't that good. They couldn't get their stuff through the door at a label or, to music supervisors or anything. I would say in the last 5 years, like USA Songwriting Contest, ISC, the Independent Song Competition, or whatever it is, those two in particular, I think, are very credible now. So, UK Songwriting Contest, Ariana, can you please make a note? I want to check that out, know more about them. Please remind me about that. Um, okay. Any other questions? I spent like 20 minutes talking about fish. Yeah, International Songwriting Competition, ISC. I actually know Shane, who's like the main marketing guy over there, and I think I met Candace, the owner. She and I were on a panel together years ago, and liked them. Um, Love today's topic. Was just thinking about this the other day. Really, Polly, you were thinking about fish? Really? Would it be okay if I make a taxi Discord chat? What's a Discord chat? Monday show will send you fish pictures. There you go. The whole episode was a real whopper. Woohoo! Oh, Michael, this is a great question. Michael, were there music libraries when you first started Taxi? Honestly, there were, but here's the drill. Here's a little music library history for you guys. Oh, I can't think of their names now, but there were half a dozen to a dozen, probably closer to half a dozen. And here's how it worked. They wouldn't work with people like you, and I'm saying like you in quotes. I have a nose. It just drive me crazy. Sorry, I just plucked it. I have no class, no shame whatsoever. The whole show is going to be sitting there going, you ever get one of those, a wild nose hair just tickles the end of your nose? I just had one. So these libraries, basically how they worked is they had somewhere between 3 and 10 composers that were kind of like more or less their staff composers. And those guys, got to remember, digital didn't exist back then. Alesis ADATs didn't exist. It was basically, you had a TAC 4-track on quarter-inch reel-to-reel, or you had a Pro Studio. So the libraries, and they were thought of as kind of cheesy, and they made canned music, and it sounded like elevator music. To say that you got music from a music library back in the 70s or 80s, was not something you'd want to brag about, quite frankly. So, a friend of mine, actually, a really good friend of mine named Jim Long, is kind of the Clive Davis of that world and started many, many really big libraries in his lifetime. So they would put the word out to their handful of composers. Let's call it Library XYZ would say, handful of composers, we're going in the studio in 6 months, and we are going to need jazz, we're going to need rock, we're going to need solo piano, we're going to need orchestral trailer stuff, whatever the genres were. They would tell them. Then these composers would mock stuff up basically on like a DX7 at best, plugged into a TAC 4-track, and they would submit the stuff to the library, and the library would go, okay, we like this one, this one, this one, and then they would get charts written for this stuff. So whatever they picked from their composers, they would get charts written for it. Yes, DeWolf was one of the first libraries. Very good. I used to use them back in the day when I was an audio post engineer and used libraries. So they would narrow it down, and they would book a studio, like a big high-end studio, like Ocean Way type of place. And they would say, okay, we're going to do rhythm tracks on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And they would cut all the rhythm tracks based on these charts Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then Thursday, they would bring in strings, and they would record the strings on every track that required strings. Friday, they would bring in horns and do horns on everything. So they did it like a factory, and then in the end, they would mix it, obviously, and then they would create, believe it or not, when I first started using libraries, they came on quarter-inch reel-to-reel and vinyl, actually. There were a few times I actually used vinyl discs, believe it or not, clicks, pops, and vinyl noise going into a TV commercial. But that's what you did. Things came. That's why they still make these compilations that they call them, a CD, but it's not a CD. It's, it's a project. It's a compilation. So that's what they did. And then they charged the studios, the music supervisors. Music supervision wasn't even so much a thing back then. Believe it or not, most of the libraries got used by audio engineers that were producing radio spots at the radio station as a side benefit. If you're an advertiser on WABC, they would have a commercial production room. And they had an engineer that knew how to produce commercials, and that engineer would record the voiceover person and fly in the music from a library, maybe add some corny sound effects, and that's how radio commercials were made. So when TV started getting audio post-production, the same libraries would get used. And frankly, the stuff sounded, some of it, it was like A-list string players and horn players, and I'm sure, like Steve Gadd quality drummers playing on the stuff because it was all union stuff. And then they would distribute this stuff out to the end users, but they would charge them thousands of dollars. Like you would pay between maybe $3,000, maybe as much as $10,000 for a music library, and you would get these boxes of either reel-to-reels or eventually CDs, and that's how you did stuff. So if I can take credit, this is not the humble me. This is the immodest me speaking right now, and I've only got 8 minutes to tell you this. So one day, Taxi was about a year old. It was roughly at the end of 92, or maybe, a third of the way into 1993. My phone rings, and hello, Taxi, how can I help you today? Because I was the phone answering person back then, and this voice that sounded just like Joey's agent on Friends. Remember Joey's agent, Estelle? Hello, Joey, it's Estelle. Okay, I answer the phone, and this woman says, can I speak to somebody in authority? I said, this is making my throat hurt. You're speaking to him. She said, hi. My name, and don't even bother writing down this name and chasing her down because I'm not even so sure she's even in business anymore. She's definitely a senior citizen, but has a very special place in my heart, and I still talk to her once or twice a year. Her name's Susan Bader, and she had a library called the All-American Music Library and another one I can't remember the name of right now, but 2 libraries. And frankly, I'd never heard of either of them, and they were independent. She was not affiliated with DeWolf or one of the big boys. And she said, I like what you're doing over there. Can you find me horrific music? And I said, you mean like horrifically bad? I thought it was like, she wanted something for a gag, And she goes, no, like horror flick stuff. Okay. So we ran a listing. And I remember a guy, he's a member right now, actually. He just rejoined not too long ago, but a guy named Steve, not Steve Smith, whatever his name. He lives here in Los Angeles, and he got a deal through her. And to this day, he still talks to her, still has stuff in her library. Anyway, she was so delighted that we got her that stuff that she started running listings all the time with Taxi. And that was literally the shot heard around the world because you got to remember, this is like late 92, early 93. Prior to that, the only way you got stuff into a library basically was if you were a composer that was connected to DeWolf or one of the other major libraries. There wasn't really anybody doing what you guys all know as the library business now. Certainly there were no libraries that were sending out briefs to the composers. Basically, they made a library, sold it to you on reel-to-reel or disc or CD, and you put it on a shelf somewhere. And it was the engineer's job when, I used to do a lot of Hertz commercials. And they would come into the studio probably, 2-3 times a month, bring a voiceover person, bring a script, and it was, like Hertz specials in Orlando this weekend, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd say, what do you got musically? And I go, well, I'm assuming you want something kind of fun and bubbly. It sounds like we're going on vacation. Yeah, that's great. So I would go take a paper catalog that was literally twice as thick as this book, and you would go into the appendix and you would look for bubbly, emotionally up tempo, sad, whatever the emotion was. They didn't even have stuff listed by genre, I don't think, back then. Jim Stamper says, excuse me, I talked to Susan. I love that woman. I still call her every now and then. And she's always so surprised. She always goes, honey, I don't have any listings for you. I said, Susan, I'm not calling you for listings. I'm calling because I love you. You changed my life. So, yeah, that was the beginning. That was the first shot heard round the world. And then other libraries started talking to her and started listening to the stuff that she had in her catalog, which was largely done on 8 tracks of Elisa's ADAP by some of our more forward-thinking and better members. Back then, when I started Taxi, it was mostly demos, where people were sitting down and recording like a guitar vocal demo on a cassette, and that was very commonplace to submit a cassette guitar vocal demo or piano vocal demo and try and get your song cut. Pierre wants to know, do you think there are too many lame music libraries nowadays? Yes. Somebody should do a marketing trailer for today's show. Big Fish, Wild Nose Hairs, Susan Bader Changes the World, and more on Taxi TV today. Yeah, there are too many. I see libraries online that I just go, how are these guys even staying in business? Question, are there more listings coming up for songs from current recording artists? Taxi still does those. There are good ones currently, and they are such an awesome opportunity. Yes, they seem to come in waves. We did have one really, really good person that was bringing in major label listings, and then that person relocated to another continent. So that went away. But we've also replaced him with somebody else that's a longtime veteran of the record side of the music industry, and he is now bringing in a lot of stuff. So, like I said, it comes in waves. We hit a dry spot for a month or two, and then all of a sudden we get like 12 of them in a week. Okay, time for one or two more quick questions. Solid Music says, my 7-year-old daughter, I'm glad I'm keeping it clean today, wants that Taxi on the shelf behind you there. That Taxi, I love 7-year-old daughters because I've had 4 of them, but sorry, kiddo, you're not getting that Taxi. Mark Reel says, I watched Money Heist. The cues were fantastic. I didn't see it. I've heard the name, but I haven't seen it. Submit song on the forums for comments. Oh, peer-to-peer. Yes, absolutely. I'm telling you, the peer-to-peer section, I just finished editing part 2 of John Pearson's passenger profile interview. Very late Sunday night I was working on that, and he talks affectionately about the peer-to-peer section of the forum. Peer-to-peer section of the forum, the forward section of the forum to see who else and what else is getting forwarded, and also the forwards blog, which is blog.taxi.com/forward. It doesn't have sentimental value. I just paid far too much money for that one. I've got probably 30 different size cabs. That's probably the second largest one that I own. But I can't remember where. I think I was running through an airport, probably in New York, because that's an NYC taxi. And I saw that thing, and it was like $125. And I thought that thing should be $25. It is solid metal, and the doors open, and all that kind of stuff. And I was in such a hurry. I just said, "Oh hell, I gotta have the thing." And I paid like $125 for that taxi. It should be $25. Another Quarantini episode where we listen to member songs. Yes, we can do that. Well, we're going to do it Thursday too with Jason. Joseph Alonso, you can hear the songs that have been forwarded. Go to forums with an S, forums.taxi.com, and the very first thing you're going to see at the top of that page is forwards. And click on that, and you will see people like John Pearson saying, "Oh, feel so lucky. I got this song XYZ forwarded to that listing, blah, blah, blah." And they will often copy and paste the text of the listing and then put a link so you can hear the song. Absolutely, Joseph. Also, go to blog.taxi.com/forward, singular, no S, and you will see every single listing. Bria and Ariana put this thing up every week or every day. It's constantly updated so you can see what was forwarded. And people like John Pearson tell me this all the time, that these are the things that made them get good faster, because they went, "Oh, now I see why I didn't get forwarded and these people did. Oh, now I get it." And the light goes on. Otherwise, you're kind of, yeah, it's great to rely on the screeners. It's great to rely on what you learn here. But there's nothing better than listening to what got forwarded. Read the listing, listen to yours, listen to theirs, read the listing again, and you'll go, "Now I get it." Ed says, "We've all overpaid for an NYC taxi." Paul Etheridge says, "I used to move in a checker cab in NYC." Yeah, I actually, I used a checker cab once to move in NYC. It's amazing how much stuff you could get in there. Michael, you get a chance to read about the fishing in the LA River? Pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm looking for any information I can find on where to do light tackle inshore fishing anywhere. It's got to be saltwater, though, in Southern California. I would love nothing more than to jump in my car, drive a half an hour, and find some backwater inshore stuff where I could, just cast from shore and catch some little 2-pounders. Joseph Alonso says, "This was a very entertaining show. My wife said to me, 'Honey, you do your best work when you've got no plan.'" Maybe I do. Solid Air says, "Recently did that with one of my return submissions." We are 3 minutes out. Long Beach for Corbinas? You mean like off the sand into the Pacific? George Gillen says, "Regarding listings, read, reread, and read again." Yes. Mark Reel says, "Thank you. This is helpful. I'm learning." You probably learned more about fishing today than you did. Look at that. What kind of father was I? Showing my, 9-month-old daughter, "That's what Daddy did today. Rather than hanging out with you, yes, your daddy who spent all week in the studio working 18-hour days and then finally had a Sunday off. Did I hang out with you? No, I went fishing. So look at those fish, because that's what I'm replacing you with." And that's probably why I'm not married to my first wife anymore. No, anyway. That's why I quit making records at some point and found out that I could earn really good money doing audio post-production and usually be home by 7 p.m. Ray Winch says, "When I lived in Jersey City, there was a guy fishing in the Hudson River. I hope he didn't eat it." Well, if he did, it probably had a cement overcoat and shoes on. Oh, no, that's the East River. Rockin', he says, "Cute." Yeah, nothing cuter than chubby little baby legs, right? That chubby little baby is now 39 years old and has 2 of her own kids. Do my girls fish? I have taken 3 out of my 4 daughters out fishing. And this past summer, I took one of my 23-year-old out. She went just to make me happy. And then she ended up catching some tarpon and loved it. Actually, when my now 23 and 19-year-old daughters were probably like 9 and 12 ish, I took them both out tarpon fishing in Cancun at night. And they were bored and getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. And then as soon as they each caught their first tarpon, it's like, we don't care if mommy thinks we're dead and we got washed out to sea. It doesn't matter. We're having fun. So we stayed out for about an extra 2 hours. My wife enjoyed the quiet, I think. All right, you guys. It was a fun and very diverse show. All right, it's 5:06. I got to run. I actually have some end of the day work I've got to do. Great seeing you guys. Glad to be back. I did kind of think about you over the weekend. I missed you. See you tomorrow, and hopefully I will have a better plan than I did today. Although, as you said, it was entertaining. So with that, I bid you a fond farewell. See you mañana for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Adios, bye. Guys, gals. Bye, Rods. Love these programs. Sucker. Bye-bye.